Well, welcome to BeerNet Radio, everybody, the podcast where all your dreams come true. I'm sitting here with Paul Chibe, CEO at Pabst Brewing Company, at his newish corporate headquarters in San Antonio. It's my first time here, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, welcome, Harry, to Pabst.
Thank you, man. We took a tour, and you've got conference rooms. You're on the 6th floor overlooking downtown one way and San Antonio the next way, and you've got the people on the outside, so they're getting ambient light. So what kind of spurred you to bring everybody together, because you've kind of been scattered for Pabst for a long time, right?
Yeah, a few years ago, before I joined the company, there was a decision to move to San Antonio. And even when that first move happened, the company here was in 2 locations. And historically, the company had been in different locations for the last 50 years. You know, the headquarters had moved around: Milwaukee, Chicago, Los Angeles. There had been a supply chain office in Dallas. And then here in San Antonio, connected to the history here with Lone Star, there was an office here for like 50 years. So for 50 years, the company kind of sat in different locations. So, we wanted, the board of directors and myself and the team, we wanted to evolve the culture and kind of start that process of, creating a unified team, improving communication. And that only happens if you're together. And so we put the office here, the functions sit together. We've arrayed the functions so that they're naturally sitting next to their colleagues that they would most work with within their function, and then with their partner functions. And it's been a big success. People are proud of the location. It's a dynamic part of San Antonio, up and coming area. And we feel that it was the right decision, a great decision. It's, helping us create the future for the company.
Right. Do you think it's helped with communications amongst your people?
Oh, absolutely. People naturally want to communicate more in person. And then you get the opportunity of that sidebar conversation that is important, but wouldn't have naturally happened if you were sitting in separate locations.
Right.
And I think that the organic flow of information, so you'll learn something you might not have learned if the person wasn't with you. And I think that the opportunity for us to be together facilitates that. And it's just a sense of team, that sense of community that you get from being together. And we really tried to bring the Pabst culture to life. Mm-hmm. If you see how we've represented the brands and represented the team and the organization, you see that, everyone kind of has an equal representation. So my desk is the same as everyone else's desk, even though I have a built-in conference room in my office. We are on the team together, kind of working together. There's not a big hierarchy where, you're creating this sense of importance with some people or not. It's all about being a team and getting the job done. Like
the old days at One Bush Place, where you had this, the 7th floor. It was all oak paneling, and those were the important people. And then you had the minions on the bottom. Well, everybody's going to I like it, the open style.
Well, that was a different cultural moment too.
Yeah, right. Right.
And I have a lot of respect for those guys, and the numbers don't lie when you look at the performance of some of the brands at that time.
Right. And so I'm assuming that everybody's back in the office. Like, you don't have a lot of remote people at headquarters.
So we have some remote personnel, but primarily the people who are remote are in our sales organization.
In the field.
Yeah, they're in the field in our sales organization.
I meant, yeah.
And we have a hybrid schedule here. We have 3 days in the office and 2 days remote. It seems to be extremely productive. Mm-hmm. It kind of keeps that balance for people. We have some personnel live in Austin. It helps facilitate their ability to come into the office on the lower traffic days. Right. And so it's working very well. Now, I will also say, though, that we have and are watching the market and seeing how the market evolves, we'll be a company that participates in remote work at kind of where the rest of the industry is. And so, if it ends up being 2-3 years from now, if it ends up being 4 days a week in the office, we'll be there.
Yeah.
But I think that right now for us, it's working extremely well. People like kind of the balance. You're able to kind of take advantage of those 2 days with, more on your one-on-one kind of meetings. And we try to have the big team meetings and operational meetings on the days we're here in the office.
Right. Okay. Now let's talk about, hold on, let me put. So there was some surprising news in the last couple of weeks that you will be brewing some of your brands at AB's brewery, I'm presuming in Houston. And so how did that come about? You come famously from AB. Did those old contacts come into play, or?
The relationships were absolutely a fundamental part of the connectivity. And there had been some old discussions about opportunities in the past that kind of led to the opportunity for us to make Lone Star in Houston. And, we will have Anheuser-Busch will be our primary beer supplier for the Pabst Brewing Company. So, very similar to the historic relationship that had been with Molson Coors, now will be with Anheuser-Busch. And then our FMB business remains at City. And we have a strong conviction that City, for us, is the best FMB RTD producer in the United States. They're able to take our IP on liquid, which we've spent a lot of time developing advantage in our liquids. They're able to bring those to life in a fantastic way. And, we won Best New Product of the Year in El Jimador, with a product produced by City with our recipes. They're a great producer. So we look at this as being almost a best case scenario. We have an incredible partner in Anheuser-Busch to make our beer, and we have an incredible partner with City to make our FMBs, and City will continue to make Old Style because we brought Old Style back to its historic home in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
Right. So it makes sense because Chicago's right there. I'm sure that's your largest market for Old Style.
Correct.
And by the same token, Lone Star, most of it's sold in Texas, and it's so tied to Texas lore. It would kind of be, I don't know, it would. I think it would diminish the brand if it weren't brewed here, right? I mean,
100%. And that was fundamental to the partnership with Anheuser-Busch for Lone Star. We had been on a track to build our own brewery here. We were working on that, and then these other discussions came about, and it opened up the opportunity to produce there. And it helps Anheuser-Busch, it helps Pabst. It creates an opportunity to win-win across all the breweries that are participating and making beer for Pabst. And and we are able to secure Lone Star production here in Texas, on a brand that's the national beer of Texas. And we want that always to be the case, that Lone Star is made in Texas.
Well, first, I'd like to make 2 points. One, if you had told me any time in my career that AB would be making Lone Star or any of the Pabst brands, I would have thought you were nuts. But I mean, since COVID, really, I've learned not to be surprised by anything, right? Things change. And I don't think most people know that Lone Star was originally an Anheuser-Busch brand. When they opened the Lone Star Brewery here in San Antonio, it was called the San Antonio Brewing Association, and it was built by Adolphus Busch. And it was originally, their brand. Now, after Prohibition, this to me, coming here to this building, has a personal thing for me. It means something. And the reason it does is because I have my son in here, sitting here. You may not even know this, son, but how my father got into the beer business in the 50s was he figured out, he got a tip from my other grandfather where the Johnson Space Center was going to be built.
Oh, wow.
Outside of Houston. And he went to Harry Jerzyk, who was the chairman of Lone Star at the time here in San Antonio, got a meeting with him. He was literally he was 20 years old. Got a meeting with him and said, hey, I have the backing. Can I buy the territory in, Baytown and that area? There was nothing there. And they were like, yeah, you can buy it. There's nothing there.
Right.
That was his tip. And they built that city for the Johnson Space Center. And he distributed Lone Star there, which at the time had 60 market share or something. It was big. Yeah, and then he parlayed that into buying Houston. And then for a while, he also had San Antonio, but I think that was It might have been a union busting thing. I don't want to get too far into that. But anyway, that's how my family got into the beer business initially. It was with this brand, 140 years old. And it's, you know what? It still tastes just as sweet as that first one I had when I was 16.
Cheers. Man. Cheers to that. Well, to that story about Adolphus Busch, if you go into the Pearl, the Hotel Emma, which was built in the Pearl Brewery, there's a picture and a plaque that celebrates that whole story around how Adolphus Busch helped get that brewery off the ground by supporting it in the early days, in that spirit of camaraderie in the brewing industry that was there. And what's also an interesting story is kind of history repeats itself. One of the stories that we heard when we announced, that Anheuser-Busch would be making our beer is that back in the 1800s, Pabst helped Anheuser-Busch make beer. And this is one of our wholesalers told us this
Colonel
story.
Pabst, the original guy.
Or whoever, maybe the son.
Yeah.
But back then when Anheuser-Busch was getting going and the family was starting to distribute the beer, Pabst helped make beer for them back then. So it's kind of history repeats itself. There is a connective tissue there that is part of the Lone Star story, part of the Pabst story, part of the Anheuser-Busch story that is kind of nice. And, we look forward to a long partnership with them, and, we're excited about the partnership.
Well, it makes total sense. I mean, that brewery in Houston is enormous, and it's right there on the highway. It can feed any city in Texas so quickly, and it's a sharp brewery. Now, so let's talk about 2023. I'm getting my dates right? That was a great year for you.
Yes.
You had the Bud Light had its issues, and you guys really kicked ass. Now, you came across really hard comps in 24. How did that end up?
The issues for us were demand was present, but we had difficulty getting supply.
Right.
And this is something that, also kind of almost perfect timing in terms of anticipating the transition, because as we transition, we're going to be able to get all the beer we need. And that wasn't necessarily the case in 2023. And we've done estimates that would have shown we would have been up, 2-4%, probably more in the 4% range. We're being very conservative. And the same on our F&B business, where there were some knock-on effects on supply availability as we were ramping up, beer production in the city. Right. And this is where we think, too, again, this is going to be a win-win, because we know we had demand and there's upside on our business, with unmet orders. We know that opening up capacities for city is going to help us and help city will better supply our F&B business. And so we're looking at going into 2025 with momentum. We'll be able to provide supply. We'll be able to, get people all the liquid they need on F&Bs, all the packages they need on F&Bs. Same on the beer side as we go into the season. And we think it's going to be a much better situation than, great year in 23. The team went in with a lot of excitement into 2024. We had challenges getting the supply, and and in that, I want to throw out the thank you to our wholesalers and retailers that stood by us. And I want to give a lot of credit to them and even to our sales organization in terms of working through all the difficulties that came from these, from some of the supply challenges that we have. And our supply team did an amazing job doing what they could in what we could in the moment. And so we're ready. We're ready to have an amazing year, and we've got a lot of amazing innovation on top of the great brands that we already have. And we think we're going to have a fantastic 2025.
Did you happen to read Beer Business Daily this morning?
Which book?
It's called Beer Business Daily. It's a daily publication. I don't know if you get it.
Oh, yeah.
You pay for it.
I think it gets caught in my spam box, but I see it once in a while.
Well, we wrote today because Brendan Whitworth at AB has a real bone to pick with calling domestic beer domestic, because he thinks, he feels domestic has negative connotations, and he, wants to call domestic beers American. And honestly, I think he's got Circana on board to switch it in their reporting, and He's getting stadiums and on-premise accounts to change their menus. What's your opinion on that?
I think Brendan's right. I believe that it should be called American Premium, American, value brands. I mean, it's fundamental truth about the beer. And I would also say it highlights something that I think is specific to American lagers. American lagers are the most drinkable, sessionable beers there are. They're advantage to the imports, where generally the IBUs are a lot higher. You might have some differences in alcohol, but American beer, American lager is unique, it's fantastic, it's sessionable. And I think in this moment where people are recognizing how special, the United States is and what the values are here, we should call it American. Yeah. And I'm all on board, and I know my team will be on board. There will be no challenge at all on that idea
Right.
from the people here.
Right. I've been getting emails all morning from people saying a lot of the same thing, even competitors and competing distributors. So let's talk about Jack Daniel's Country Coolers.
Country cocktails.
Oh God, why do I always say that? Of course it's country cocktails.
Right.
And so, we've had a lot of RTDs, spirit-based RTDs, people coming in trying to tackle that space with really not much success in branded RTDs that are spirits-based, and yet the F&Bs have continued to do well. Where do you see that business going, given that there's a lot more competition in that space?
Well, I think it stood the test of time. It's been out there, I believe, for 30 years. And, Pabst has done a great job in partnership with Brown-Forman. We've doubled the business since we've taken it on. We've ignited a lot of fantastic innovation on the brands. New flavors, like we're launching JDCC Strawberry this year. Jack Daniel's Country Cocktail Strawberry.
That sounds like it'll be good.
It's fantastic. And then we have 2 flavors of 8%, which is Jack Daniel's Country Cocktails Boulder. And again, the team here, we're focused on making sure that whatever we bring to the market is a leading proposition. The liquid is fantastic. People like the proposition. And so we have winners from a liquid standpoint. And given the strength of the brand, we've been doing well. And I think, you see things come and go, but Country Cocktails from Jack Daniel's has been around, and we expect it to continue to be here and continue to grow based on the quality of the brand, the support we give the brand, and also the innovation and liquid quality that we bring to the market.
Right. Is that becoming more of a singles play?
Well, we were overdeveloped in glass 6-packs.
Right.
And so we're building out our singles business and our variety pack business. But I do have a comment to say about 6-packs, because you hear noise both on the F&B side and in the beer side, kind of, sometimes people pulling away from 6-packs.
Right.
And we believe as a team that, and we have data that show it, that it's been a mistake to pull back from 6-packs, both on the beer side and especially on the F&B side. And in FMBs, where people have stayed focused on having the 6-pack offering along with the other packages, generally their business is healthier. And I think that, there's been innovation brought into the market. It was 12-pack VPs. And what ended up happening is that the kind of that natural progression into a business kind of got disrupted, because, well, wait a minute, am I going to buy something I don't know at $17.99 for the first time? Whereas you might take a chance on a 6-pack. And a 6-pack is the trial package for grocery and mass, not singles. Singles are the trial package for a C-store.
Right.
And so what we're a big believer in, and we believe that all retailers should be making sure that they have robust support plans for 6-packs along with the other packages to make sure they're bringing people in, and then they'll graduate to the bigger packs if they like the product. But you may never find out if they like it, because they don't want to spend $17.99 the first time. Right. And I think that, we definitely believe there's a role for that. We want to emphasize that in our retail execution.
That's a great point. 6-pack is kind of the forgotten child, the middle child of the beer industry right now. But yeah, and also, in your case, given that it's an FMB, and to the consumer, they may not distinguish between an FMB and a spirit-based, which are mostly sold in 4-packs.
Correct.
At a more expensive price point. So that seems like putting a 6-pack against a 4-pack, given the price points that are there, is advantageous to the 6-pack. Am I right there?
I agree. I think that.
I mean, I do simple math in my head sometimes, but
I agree with that. I think, people, especially now, the consumer's been under pressure, in recent years because of inflation. They're looking at value, and definitely FMBs are a value. And that would be a logical conclusion that if you're seeing a 6-pack versus a 4-pack with similar levels of alcohol, you're going to go for the 6-pack.
I wonder how many consumers actually know what's in their beer. It used to be none, but it seems like consumers are smarter now. But I don't know. I don't think it's that deep. So how about 2025? Shouldn't this environment, price sensitivity, and a sense of populism behoove your brands, especially since they're American made? Is this the moment?
I absolutely believe that our brands are positioned to perform well. And as I said, we had unmet demand in 2024 that we plan to meet in 2025. We've seen the information in the market. You've shared it, others have shared it around the pressure that's on the consumer, the focus on value. And we believe it can be a fantastic moment. And this is why we're bringing Pabst Light into the market. And I'll talk about that in a second. But
we're breaking news here, folks. We're breaking news here. Pabst Light. All right.
But we'll talk about,
Hold on, let me put that on Twitter real quick. Just kidding.
No, it's been out. We've shared it. But, the opportunity, I think, is that people are looking for value. I fundamentally believe American domestic and American value brands are underspaced in the cooler. We think there's opportunity for these brands, given their productivity and turns, to have more space. And I think it makes sense for the retailer and the wholesaler. Like the wholesaler here is, they're humping cases of beer that's turning all the time, running in out of stocks, but looking down the cooler or looking down the shelf, you see stuff that they haven't touched in 30 days.
Right.
Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
From an efficiency standpoint, from a sales standpoint, from the retailer. So, we believe there's an opportunity to right size the shelf, give the appropriate space to some of these, American beer segments that still dominate when it comes to productivity per point of distribution. Let that set and bring opportunities like innovation, like Pabst Light to bear, because people are looking for value, but they also expect quality. Right. And we really spent our time making sure that we did this right. So Pabst Light is from the ground up a new proposition from the Pabst Brewing Company. So right. It's Pabst branded because it's from Pabst, but it's a new proposition. So when you think about the graphics on the can, the graphics on the secondary, we did our homework. They're advantage to competition. They look amazing. They have huge on-shelf performance and pop like crazy. Right. We spent our time doing the liquid, and making sure that we have an amazing beer, that has kind of the modern credentials. It's a 4.2 ABV, 96 calories. It's like 3.5 carbs. So it's right there where you need it to be and what consumers expect today. And with a liquid profile and a taste that is, second to none in my view. And we have strong testing that show it's a leader in both the domestic or in the American premium and in the American value segment. So we think that given where the consumer is going, what the consumer is focused on, the opportunity to have the box get kind of corrected and making sure that we're making the right decisions with space so that we're maximizing the retailer and the wholesaler's profitability. There's a perfect moment for Pabst Light, and it's gonna perform like crazy, and we think that there's absolutely no reason why. We have a beautiful Pabst Blue Ribbon business. There's absolutely no reason at all, not losing a case, why we can't have an amazing Pabst Light business the same size.
Right. I think you're right. It seems like 25 is going to be a big year for beer in that price segment. And one way you can know that is that AB is increasing their investment behind Busch Light,
Right.
and Busch Light is growing, and that is Pabst Light. That goes right up against Busch Light, right?
Well, we're competing with all the brands in the value
and
segment.
Banquet too is
Key Light, High Life, all the brands that are, Miller High Life Light, all the brands that are in that segment, and so not that some of them are, kind of small, but we really believe that there's space to grow, and one of the things that I also believe, in a healthy category, I think if we work together and compete effectively and bring excitement to the category, there's no reason why the pie has to continue to shrink. Right? We got to get to this moment where the pie is growing, and I've been in categories where, because of the competition and the dynamism it brought, the engagement it brought to the consumer, and also the excitement it gave to the retailer, the pie was growing. So one company was growing 7% a year. The other guy might have been growing 5% that year. Then it flips, but the pie is growing and everyone's doing quite well. That's my wish for the beer business. Pabst Light brings energy. It brings enthusiasm. It can help the whole industry get to a better performance and get to growth.
Right. And the beer industry is just in dire need. I wrote an article on Monday's Beer Business Day. I don't know if you take Beer Business Daily, but it comes out every day. And that article, we really haven't grown volume in 20 years. Yeah. And it's gotten worse since COVID. And it's been masked because we've taken such big price increases and margins have been fat and people have been trading up. And so we haven't really noticed it because you still go to the bank and you're growing.
Right.
But it's starting, if you look at scan data, that's starting to really, they see the kinks in the armor of that strategy. That's another reason why I think that pricing structure of budget beers is poised for a lot of growth, but also just overall demand just sucks, and it's not, and it's the wine and spirits guys are having it even worse for the first time ever. They don't know what to. They're unless you've been around for over 20 years, you don't know what it's like to be down in the spirits business. It sucks, right? You guys are now experiencing it, and you're learning what's happening here. And a lot of this, I think, is coming from this kind of over reporting in the mainstream press of how dangerous alcohol is. Like what you had made some noise about it at MBWA. What are your thoughts on this health and wellness thing that's going around?
My views on it are this, in that you have to have a holistic view of health, right? And I think moderation in any behavior is really important. And one of the things I think that gets kind of exaggerated, and this has been, studies, you have them saying, well, hey, 2 drinks a day becomes this huge health consequence. Well, when you then get into the data, it ends up being like 2 months of your life if you drink 2 drinks a day. And then it gets into other areas where the data becomes blurry. Right. But what I think is missing is in this conversation, and this is kind of what I spoke about at MBWA, there's a mental health aspect. And one of the things that's fundamental about the beer business is that the social occasions that come from consuming beer, going out with your friends, celebrating a win, being with your family, enjoying time outside, at a pool, all these things are social occasions that help mental health. And you can't just think about one little thing. You got to think about the total picture. And I think that what's really important, and I see this with some of the younger members of people I know, younger members of our own team, there's a lot less likelihood for people to go out like they used to.
Yeah.
And I don't believe that is a positive development for society. People are social animals. People get their sense of wellness and happiness from being with others that they like or love. Mm-hmm. And I think that where the beer business and our category and the on-premise and these at-home, celebratory occasions, they're fundamental in making people feel good and be happy. And we know happy people with happy lives live longer.
Right.
And so there's a role for our category to play in making people have happy lives, and us being there was that old phrase, a social lubricant, having it be part of a reason for people to come together and have fun and have those moments that become memories for the rest of their lives.
Right. I totally agree. I mean, since COVID, really, the younger generation never had, they quit going out because of COVID, and then they never really, as they became 21 during that time, they don't have the memory muscle. And in fact, they get anxiety about going out and meeting people because they don't have that practice in meeting new people. And you see it just amongst young people. Listen, have 2 PBRs. That'll make you more sociable, makes you talk to people, makes you, maybe go to somebody that you're interested in, and you have the courage to talk to them. I'm just saying that's how I did it. And I fear this younger generation is missing out on a lot. And beer is the beverage of moderation. Yeah, you don't have to go out and drink 5 martinis, like I used to do. Trust me, it's not good for you. But, a couple of beers.
Even within the context of the movement and the health toward lower alcohol, beer, I think one of the conversations that we also need to focus against is beer is low alcohol.
Right.
I'm drinking a 4.2 or 3.9. I can't remember exactly.
Yeah,
but
this one's 4 something. And I mean, granted, it is 7 in the morning. But
Pabst
it's all
Light
right.
is 4.2. Mm-hmm. But the important point here is that beer is the beverage of moderation. That is something that our industry did an amazing job for many years highlighting to give an advantage, in the time. And this is also something I shared in the past with the MBWA. It wasn't always the case that beer had leadership in the share of ethanol. Mm-hmm. When I worked at Anheuser-Busch, one of the things that was shared with me, one of the historical facts, was how in the 50s and 60s, spirits was the leader.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was leadership in the beer business, August Busch III, mm-hmm. the great marketing that happened for like 30 straight years out of the business, where the industry became led by beer. And right. I think that is something that, sure, there are headwinds. And I think like another headwind that, has been a part of the conversation is that, you have that iPhone sitting in front of you. Mm-hmm. The iPhone and the apps on it and the activity around it takes money, mm-hmm. and that didn't exist before 2008. And so that's right. also been, there have been these new activities that have been draws on disposable income and draws on entertainment spending, right? And so those are things we have to overcome, which just puts on our industry, and on Pabst Brewing too, we've got to do a better job with our marketing, driving these occasions, working with our partners in the on-premise, paying attention to, the value proposition of our products, given, the demand on our, especially our younger consumer, the LDA and above, where they have other things, and disposable income as a trend hasn't kept up.
Right.
And so there's a lot going on there, but I still fundamentally believe that we can have a growing category with expanding consumption. Like you said, it's been declining. Well, there's a lot more people now that we can move that volume up with and still be lower on a per capita basis than we were 20 years ago.
Right.
So there's a lot of volume to be had out there, and I just think that with the right focus and belief, we can get there. And I want to make that point too. If we don't believe it, it's not going to happen. Right. So we all have to believe it. That's step one. We believe that we can get this business to health, mm-hmm. get the category growing, and bring excitement, enthusiasm back. We can do it, but we got to start with the belief. And I believe that we can get back to brighter days in the beer business.
Brother, I believe too. You got me riled up. This is me riled up. I think, beers. It's just I don't need to keep repeating it. It's just it's a healthy beverage compared to the other stuff that's out there. And you're right. Like online gambling, I think is a big drain on young men's pocketbooks that they're not spending on beer anymore. The attention that this thing. If you go to a bar these days, it's sad. You just look down the bar and everybody's just on their phone. It's like, why are you even a bar? So let's talk about some of your brands. You would because you guys have a wide stable of brands. We forget. You had mentioned Rainier in the Pac Northwest. How's that been going?
Rainier has been a juggernaut. It's an amazing brand. We have a young man named Sean McKillop running the brand. He's the marketing director up there, and the business has been doing fantastic. We actually hit a milestone. We hit, I believe, the all-time highest number of cases. Over 3 million cases of Rainier have been sold. It's an all-time record. I know that we've had the best trend since 1999 on the brand for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And so, it's been doing great. And, it's one of those things where, to the proof point, it has great marketing. It's very clear. The retailers up there are excited about it. Our wholesaler partner up there is Columbia Distributing. Chris DeFonsi and his team are super excited about it. And it's been paying off. The business has been performing. It's growing. And there's still tons of upside yet on that business. And it's still versus competition, at a lower level of distribution. And we're still beating them. So there's upside. And, so Rainier is doing great. Good. And another business you probably know, and this one's near and dear to my heart because I grew up in Chicago, is Old Style. Yeah. I used to go to this bar where you would get a Old Style and a meat stick for $1.25, and that was where we would go.
And a shot of Malort.
Yeah, we didn't do that. Wasn't going as much back when I was around. But we would get it was an Old Style, long neck, 12-ounce bottle. And a meat snack, $1.25 was the kind of what you would give it to the bartender.
That's such a Chicago thing.
Yeah. So, but that brand has been performing extremely well. Been growing on the on-premise year after year after year. It's had some supply challenges, but we're really excited about 2025 and keeping that trend because again, marketing matters. It's true to itself. It's a great proposition. It's an amazing beer. People love the liquid. And, it's on track to be a winner again in 2025. We have down here, of course, you have Lone Star, Lone Star and Lone Star Light. Lone Star Light has been on a tear down here. It's now equal in size to Lone Star Red. Lone Star.
Wow. That is because, I remember just a few years ago, it was much smaller.
It was much smaller. It's something we paid attention to the last several years, and it's paid off for us. And it's again a great beer. It's a great brand. And there's what's great about Lone Star and Lone Star Light as brands is that truth that they're bringing. You have in Lone Star that history of Texas, the tradition. You talk about the brewing history. Being started back, in the 1800s. For the 140th year. And then you have Lone Star Light that kind of represents, what Texas, the modern Texas and where it's coming from. And so these brands we think have legs because Texas has legs. There was an interesting post about the size of Texas as an economy. And I think, one of the things that came up is, I think it would be like number 8th or 9th in the world if it were an independent country. Like California's massive, it would be 6th. And right. I think Texas, if it were an independent country, would be 9th. So we have these, it's a massive economy with tons of upside. Things are going well here, and we think these brands are perfectly suited for it. The other brand that we have that has been doing really well, especially Old Mill NA.
Oh,
so
okay.
Old Mill NA specifically, it's something people don't know that we have.
It's been around though, right?
It's been around, and it's a very strong performer, and we're excited about that. And so we've had some supply challenges with Old Mill NA, and we're excited about getting into more availability to take advantage of the opportunity. We have up in the Maryland area a brand called Natty Bo, National Bohemian.
Natty Bo. I forgot about that.
We have a great partner up there, Chesapeake, which is our primary wholesaler in that part of the U.S. And Evan and his team have been kicking ass. That brand has been doing well. It's a big indie market up there, so that also kind of sometimes it's not so clear. You got to look at the BI data versus the Nielsen data, but that brand's been doing really, really well.
Yeah, it doesn't show up in scans because there's just not a lot of scanning accounts in that area. Is that right?
Yeah, And then we have Colt 45 and Schlitz Malt Liquor, our malt business, and there too, it hasn't been a point of emphasis for us, but we think there's upside there, and there's a drinker and a consumer that's interested in those brands. And we actually think, again, too, like in terms of driving category health, competition is good, and we actually believe there's a bunch of consumption that is not on the table. There's an opportunity for us to be in the cooler and it to expand consumption because, not necessarily every need is met by the other brands. And so, we really feel that there's this big opportunity here to bring our brands into better distribution, expand consumption, help with category, help with, industry health, and, make excitement, make the beer business exciting. Right. Then, we have our partnership with Brown-Forman, and there we have our Jack Daniel's Country Cocktails business, and I kind of spoke about, we have the Boulder, the Boulder range, the 8%, again, amazing liquids that we know from an execution standpoint. When we've been putting them out there, they've been spinning 50% faster than the 5% liquids that they're replacing. And then we brought out a new strawberry that's coming out. And then we have El Jimador, which has been our proposition, our margarita style F&B proposition, and it's performing well. It's in Hispanic accounts, it's performing up there with the industry leaders. It's spinning at the rate of a Cayman Jack or the top performing SKUs from other competitors. Right. And again, it's a great brand. It has a heavy, Mexican American consumer appeal. We made sure that the packaging, and it won an award, I can't remember which one, but it won an award for packaging. And it also won in C-Store News. The El Jimador business last year won New Product of the Year. Right. And again, that was something that we're proud of, because we've been really working hard as a team on making sure that when we bring a product out, it's a great product and it's going to make it for the long term. Right. So we have those two coming out in 6-packs. Again, on the point of we believe that this is a way to fuel a healthy funnel. Bring people in, let them try the products, and then let them graduate to the bigger packs when they're willing to, separate $18 from their wallet. Right. And then, our primary focus for 2025 is going to be the launch of Pabst Light, which, we're going to start seeing STRs in March, and, we're offering an assortment of packages, but like, as you see, amazing graphics, that have, I really like this real simple to the point packaging. It really pops. Very clean. Yeah. You have, you pay respect to the past, with the blue and the red and the white. Also, happens to be the flag colors of the great United States. I've heard of it, yeah. And then you also have it's a modern beer. It's 96 calories, 3.5 gram carbs, and it's a 4.2 ABV liquid. So right there where you need to be on a light beer. And we're excited. Our wholesaler and retailer feedback has been amazing. Yeah. And so we're really happy with the response we got and the commitments we're getting from retailers and wholesalers, and we're looking forward to having this be a big success in 25 and beyond. And we already have plans for 2026 in terms of what we'll do with expanding the packages and the offering and new initiatives, and we're committed to making this thing the next big thing in light beer. Right. I'm pretty good at predicting whether brands are going to do well, and I think that's a slam dunk right there. And how long's the Boulder been out in the trade? Boulder just started last year, at the end of last year. Okay. And it's 8%. Okay. Yeah. That seems like a slam dunk. That's the new one. Yep. So. And again, we've done a very good job with the liquid development and making sure, like, if someone buys it, they're going to repeat. Yeah. No one's going to be disappointed after tasting that. Right. So. Well, what words of encouragement do you have for people? You always have good words of encouragement, Paul. You have, like, you had a rallying cry last year, and I can't remember what it was now.
drawing a blank. What was do you remember what you said? Something really great.
Diggs always has the good words of encouragement for his sales team, but maybe if I was going to give words of encouragement to the industry, is that what you're looking for?
Yeah.
I would say, let's keep the faith. Let's compete like crazy. Let's do all we can to put the best marketing and sales programs out there. Because if the retailer's excited and the wholesaler's excited, and most importantly, the consumer's excited, we can get this category growing again. Because it's not a lot of fun, trying to eat from a shrinking pie.
No.
And I think that, if you look at the fundamentals, the fundamentals underneath it all, we're a low ABV product. People are moving to health. We're still a social product. I believe that moment where social is going to be cool again in real life, not social on social. Social in real life is going to be cool again. We're going to have it can change. We can get a tailwind, but we got to do it together. Again, I think if you look at the history, when the industry was on fire, it was driven by great marketing, great innovation, competitiveness, between the breweries, and people shouldn't look at that as a negative. The competition will help us get this industry going on the right track. And I believe that great marketing, great programming, getting the retailers excitement, getting those displays out there again, getting people into the business, getting people out into bars, driving those occasions around social can get this industry on the right track.
Man, I agree. There you have it, folks. I agree with everything you said. And, great marketing, creativity, and imagination. I think, in my opinion, we've gone too far into, focus group testing and just over analyzing, analysis paralysis. I hate to use, these kind of words that are corporate speak, but it's true. Creativity, imagination. Let's get out. Let's do something different. Let's try something different. Let's do a Pabst Light. Let's do a strawberry punch. Let's do the different things. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Well, I really appreciate you having us to the new headquarters, Paul. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for coming, and keep putting it out there, man.
Every day. You should read it sometimes. It comes over. It's really good. You pay for it.
I'll check the spam folder.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Paul.
All right. Thank you.